Season 2 is here, and it brought a crazy list of buffs for Mr. Fantastic, one of the most disrespectful duelists in the entire game, catapulting him straight to the top of the meta as he's got more health at base. They gave him 25 more HP, so he's got more survivability, more elasticity, and he's now dishing out more damage with every single punch that he lands. I say disrespectful because no one else is killing Star-Lord out of his ult with their belly button. Okay, no one else is throwing Hulks and Moon Knights into holes like they're feeding a toddler, like, here comes the airplane, here, right into the little hole, right? No one else is chest-bumping snipers up in their perches or wiping teams yelling, ha-ha, ho-ho, under low ceilings. If you know me, you know I like to make full advanced guides for characters in Marvel Rivals, and I try to make sure that I have at least 20 hours of gameplay in-game with a character before I give any advice on how to actually use them, because I hate when YouTubers just read off abilities and try to give you really basic advice instead of actually sitting down with a character and learning the nuanced applications of their kits. Today is no different. I now have about 30 hours logged on Mr. Fantastic. I have him at Lord status, and I'm going to show you how crazy powerful he is now after the buff. So let's dive in. As always, this is an advanced guide, so we won't be reading off ability descriptions or showing practice range footage against bots. This is all real gameplay against real players really trying to fight back. You'll see clips from 40 and 50 plus kill games in here. I always like to start with a quick summation of the hero's core loop or core identity. So with Mr. Fantastic, you're a genuine brawler. He's like a bungee cord that stretches and snaps all over the arena. Sometimes he's pulling things to him and then hitting them with a bunch of damage. Sometimes he's bouncing over to an enemy to impact them and hit them with a slow debuff. But his whole loop is really about stretching and snapping, stretching and snapping. You know, I gotta give credit to NetEase for really capturing that feeling of elasticity with Mr. Fantastic. After long sessions with him, I almost like stand up and walk away from my monitor feeling all bendy and stuff. But this makes him so good at being versatile. Okay, so you'll see me bounce to my back line and provide support and peel for healers. You'll see me bounce up to my friendly divers and team up against enemy healers. You'll even see me grab enemies from far away and yank them off of my healers and force them to fight me instead. He's just got so much versatility, it's unreal. And so because of that, the ceiling is, I mean, the sky's the limit, guys, when it comes to playing Mr. Fantastic. If your game sense is good and you really understand his kit, there's no like small box that defines the way that you play. You're kind of bending and stretching and snapping all over the place and providing a wide, array of benefits to your team. But let's start breaking down his kit one part at a time, starting with his primary attack, which just got a serious buff. So Mr. Fantastic's primary fire is just a 3-punch combo, right? One fist, other fist, both fists. And each punch just got buffed to do 5 more damage for a total of 15 extra damage in the full combo. So it's now 65 damage per punch. And it used to be that each punch would grant you 5 elasticity, but now it will grant you 8 elasticity per punch, so that's a grand total of 9 more elasticity per combo than it used to be. A couple things real quick to note here. First, it's important to know that you can hit multiple enemies with Mr. Fantastic's primary punches. So you'll see me sweeping across the arena with these punches in the background, sometimes hitting 4 enemies with a single punch. And you'll do damage to all the enemies that you hit, but you'll still only get a maximum of 8 elasticity per punch thrown, okay? So you'll just get that 8 elasticity for the first person that you hit with that punch, but not the others that you sweep and hit. Now, when you get to 100 elasticity, you go into your inflated, puffed up boy form. Your punches in that state will deal 80 damage per hit instead of the old 75. That's almost enough to kill a squishy enemy completely with just your basic combo. That's 240 damage right there, and I love it. So definitely be sweeping those punches left to right, right to left, up and down. This makes Mr. Fantastic great against enemies like Spider-Man, Black Panther, who have a tendency to zip around. You're not hit scan. You don't have to hit them directly like it's a hit scan projectile. You just throw the punch and drag across the screen, where they are. and you'll sweep across them, make contact, and do the damage. It's great. This also makes him very good against smaller enemies like Jeffs and Rockets. They have a hard time getting away from Mr. Fantastic because we don't have to do like hit scan attacks. We just sweep across them, and we can still use our other abilities to pull them to us or pull ourselves to them. So let's move on to Flexible Elongation. This is your E ability on PC. This just got a massive rework, so listen up. It's not like it used to be. First up, your cooldown just got dropped from 10 seconds per charge to 8 seconds per charge, and you still have 2 charges, so you can legitimately spam this ability. If you target a friendly teammate, you will lunge to them and you'll give them a shield, right? And you'll give yourself a shield too. This is great for lunging to a teammate who's diving an enemy, or lunging to a healer in your back line to get to safety. Maybe you're in danger, you just want to lunge back. You can do that too. But you can also target an enemy and lunge to them instead, both dealing damage to them and also giving yourself some bonus shielding. But here is what's new. Now when you lunge to an enemy, you'll hit them with a 35% slow debuff for a couple of seconds. It's crazy. It's absolutely insane. So if a Venom is trying to get away, or a Black Panther is trying to dash away, or Spider-Man is trying to zip away, or an Iron Man is trying to hit the jets and fly away, you just say, nah, man, you're staying, right? We're duking this out. You're like Macho Man Randy Savage. I got you for 3 minutes. 3 minutes of playtime. And if they still try to get away, you just hit them with the Distended Grip, but we'll get to that in a second. Anyway, this is a huge buff. The trade-off is that you'll now only get 20 elasticity for performing this ability as opposed to the old 30. But honestly, we're getting more elasticity with our primary punches, so it's all good. Plus, we're getting more charges on this ability as well, so we're using it more often. It's no sweat off my back. I don't find myself going in my inflated state less after these changes. But this is what I really wanted to highlight here with the Flexible Elongation ability. You can get to enemies who think they're safe, okay? This applies to Moon Knights who think they're safe up on their perches, Black Widows, etc. So we bounce up to them and we make them panic. And I'll be honest, there's absolutely nothing a Moon Knight can do against a good Mr. Fantastic who lunges up to them. The best thing they can hope for and pray for is that a teammate of theirs will come to their rescue and make it a 2v1. Because in a straight up 1v1, they're gonna get cooked. Okay, I make Lord Moon Knight's rage swap to other characters all the time as Mr. Fantastic. We call that learned helplessness. It's the quiet resignation that there's nothing you can do. If Mr. F jumps on you, then you're toast. Let's move on to your right-click ability called Distended Grip. Oh my gosh, this ability is like my favorite. And you should absolutely be spamming the ever-living crap out of this thing. It's on a short cooldown, only 6 seconds, so you should be whipping people around like waiters chucking rolls at Lambert's. That's a reference for my southern friends. Or it's like a hibachi grill master chucking shrimp at people's faces. Anyways, we can get off the rails really fast with these analogies, and that can be dangerous. But you've got 2 options with this ability. It's a 2-hit combo. You can hit one guy with the right click, and then a different enemy with the left click, and that will snap both of them together and make them conk heads like some Looney Tunes episode and deal damage on impact. Or you can hit the same enemy with both the right click and the left click, and that will grab them with both hands and yank them over to you. But you can sort of control the direction that they get yanked to by turning your camera. That's how you'll see me toss enemies into holes or away from doors when they're trying to run away, or I'll grab an enemy tank, much like Bucky's do, and whip them away from their team and into the middle of our team. Then they just get absolutely shredded. It's like that scene in Jurassic World where the Pteranodon picks up the lady and then chucks her out over the Mosasaurus tank, and the Mosa jumps out of the water and gobbles her whole, right? That's what we do to the enemy of our choice. We rip them away from the security of dry land. We toss them right into the middle of our team where they get torn to pieces. I will say, of the 2 options, I greatly prefer to use both hits on the same enemy and then whip them around, right? And you can do this to the same enemy multiple times and really frustrate them since it's on such a short cooldown. You can do it twice in the same duel with the same person. I do this to grab divers when they drop on my healers. I'm just like, nah man, you can't do that. Get over here, duke it out with me instead. Anyway, you'll notice in the background gameplay that I use this ability all the freaking time, like every fight, as much as I can. One of the best ways to ruin an enemy's plan is to constantly force them out of position. The more power of choice we take away from them, the more rattled they'll be, and the less likely they'll be to land their own crucial combos and abilities. Let's move on to Reflexive Rubber. This is your shift ability on PC. This ability makes you puff up your chest. You'll absorb all incoming damage and then reflect it back in a powered-up projectile. This takes some practice to be able to land this ability often, but I get kills with it like every game now. It's hilarious, it's dumb, it's disrespectful as heck. You're like that super lame kid in My Hero Academia whose whole superpower is just that he shoots glittery lasers out of his belly button and then gets tired and pukes. But I use this to destroy Punishers and their ults, Star-Lords and their ults, Wandas and their ults to destroy Punisher turrets, basically to avoid every single ultimate in the game. You can't be CC'd in this state, and it has a short cooldown. So you can just say no to Jeff ults, he can't swallow you. You just hit your shift when you see the floor light up. You can say no thank you to the Eye of Agamotto, and then rip Strange away from your teammates with your Distended Grip. You can say no thank you to having a whale dropped on your head by Namor. I mean, any offensive or CC ult in the game can just be completely negated by your shift ability. And then you pick a squishy out of the crowd and point the reticle at them and reflect all that damage back at someone. Now that's the part I really want to talk about next. How do you get the most mileage out of the projectile itself? Because part of the utility of this ability is obviously, I think the biggest utility is just saying no thank you to everything when it comes to damage and CC. But there's also the projectile. We want to make good use of that too. So one thing that's important to note, you do not have to wait until the timer runs out to shoot the projectile back. In fact, most of the time, I don't wait the full duration. Sometimes it's best to use your elongation to lunge up to an enemy, get a punch or two in, and then hit shift and use your reflexive rubber to just tank one quick attack from your enemy, and then as soon as that attack is over, hit shift again. At point blank, hit them with a little bit of damage before you continue your combos. So I do this a lot on people like Moon Knights, who usually, as a response to getting pushed, when they suddenly get pushed, usually they toss an Ankh down at your feet, and they start to sort of spam the damage at it. But if you wait the full duration, they'll just zip away and leave you standing there all puffed up. So definitely feel free to hit shift, go into puffed up state, they'll do an attack. Immediately when that attack is over, before they have a chance to turn and run away or whatever, you shoot that right back at them by hitting the button again, by hitting shift again, instead of waiting for it to run out. I also cancel it early when I'm avoiding enemy ultimates, but I know my teammates are still going to get caught in it. So if it's a Jeff ult, I flex up to avoid the ult, and then I immediately cancel it and start attacking the Jeff. If it's an Eye of Agamotto, I flex up to avoid it, and then I immediately cancel it and yank Strange away from my teammates. You get the idea. But it's also important to note that the projectile is slow, so it's best to lead your shot considerably. You'll get a feel for the speed of it eventually, but just know that it's slower than you expect it to be, and it's best to use it against enemies who are close to you rather than enemies who are far away, as they'll most likely not be in the same spot by the time the projectile gets to them. Alright, that's going to take us to, finally, his ultimate ability, Braniac Bounce. Now, this ult is super goofy, but it just got a huge buff. So now when you activate it, you'll immediately get 400 extra hit points to keep you safe while you're bouncing. It used to be super easy to die in this ult because there's just no way to protect yourself and you're pretty vulnerable. But now, it's a lot easier to go the full duration of the ult and stay alive while doing it. You'll bounce 3 times, but if you make contact on your 3rd bounce, then you'll get a 4th. If you make contact with your 4th, you'll get a 5th. And if you make contact with your 5th bounce, you'll get a final 6th bounce. But here's the thing. The best place to pop this is when the enemy is grouped up in a location with a low ceiling. If the ceiling is low, your bounces will go way faster, lightning fast, boing, 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 right? This is huge burst damage in a small area and is bound to get you some kills, even get tanks super low. If you do it out in the open with high ceilings or open skies, then the enemy will have a lot of time to react, run for cover, or shoot you out of your ult. So definitely try to find those low ceilings whenever it's possible. Okay, now that we have all the moving parts sorted out, let's chat a bit about running through your rotations and getting good use out of your abilities. So when you enter combat, your goal is really to deny space initially by using sweeping attacks to hit multiple enemies at once. You'll see me running into the enemy team, sweeping across the arena, and tagging several enemies, and helping out my teammates by priming enemies that I'm not even fully committed to. Eventually, we're going to single someone out of the crowd and use our flexible elongation to fly up to them, hit them with damage and a slow debuff, while also giving ourselves some shields to work with. Then I'm going to use my Distended Grip to get 2 hands on that target and yank them in a direction of my choosing, maybe away from their team, maybe over to my team, maybe off the map, maybe away from a health pack, so I can move over to the health pack instead and take it for myself. Then I'm going to use a second flexible elongation attack to chest bump them again, hit them with a slow debuff. Meanwhile, we're generating a lot of temporary hit points for ourselves, and we're offsetting the damage that they're doing to us. And at this point, we're probably now going to get an extra 400 HP as we inflate and do even more damage with our primary attacks. They're probably dead at this point. Our attacks have less range when we puff up, but we're in the mix now anyway, so it doesn't really matter. And we're sweeping our big attacks across as many enemies as possible to deal as much damage as we can before we deflate. At that point, we go through our rotation again, or we use our shift ability to walk backwards and regroup with our team. If the reflexive rubber runs out before we can get to safety, we just spin around and use our flexible elongation to lunge to the nearest ally and generate some extra health for us while doing it. Boom! That's the loop! All in all, if you're playing Mr. Fantastic correctly, you're going to be a total nuisance to the enemy team. Mr. Fantastic can be really aggravating to play against because you never really know how you're doing in the fight. He might turn invincible at any second. He might suddenly get 400 hit points out of nowhere. He might yank you to a new location where you no longer have the advantage. There's just a lot of things that can happen in a fight with Reed Richards that totally throws off your whole approach and changes how you thought the fight was going. I really do think that these changes will make Mr. Fantastic a top tier hero in the coming months as we venture deep into Season 2, but I will warn you, the Lord grind on Mr. Fantastic is crazy long, okay? I have 11 Lord characters now. Usually they take on average something like 22 hours or so logged on the character to hit Lord. Cloak and Dagger was just 14 hours, Wanda was I think only 18. But Mr. Fantastic took just over 26 hours to get Lord. So he's a grind and a half, but don't let that keep you from mastering one of the most dynamic characters in the game. Good luck, thanks so much for watching this video today. Please consider leaving a like as that's the best free way to support the content right here on YouTube. And consider subscribing for even more Rivals guides and content. I'm working right now very diligently on a Emma Frost guide. I have her up to Captain after day 1. So I want to get a lot more time logged on her before I make my video, but we're already learning some pretty crazy stuff about her kit, so I can't wait for that one. Anyways, be warm and well fed, my friends, and hope to catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.